What do we as leaders have to do in order to alleviate the chaos and the perception of an emergency that our people are feeling? Well, if you think about the definitions again, if chaos is uncertainty and if an emergency is lack of options, then as a leader, our job is to provide a level of certainty to our folks and to provide options to our folks. What's up, hard chargers, and welcome back to another episode of Hodgepodgepreneur. Glad you made it out. Jeremy, good to see you again. Mark, crazy party the other night. Glad you made it. Susie, good to see you. Sherry, welcome back. For all of those who are just now joining us or just now finding us, you have made it. You have made it to the well of knowledge of small business entrepreneurship, where Hodgepodgepreneur, we're all about giving you the skills that you need in order to run a small business. So you have to be a jack of all trades, no shame in that. And we try to steepen that learning curve for you so you can become better at all those things that are not necessarily in your wheelhouse quicker so that you can run your business to the point where you can hire somebody to do those things for you. So that's what Hodgepodgepreneur is about. If you like that, give me a thumbs up down in the bottom. If you really like that, then you should subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications. Let's jump into it, because today we are going to talk about something that is very much relevant to the current situation. And if you notice the date of this video, if let's say this is a year or two down the road, you will note that this is during the coronavirus. So right now during the coronavirus, everybody's locked up, businesses are shut down, people are laid off and unemployed, nobody really knows what's going on, there's a lot of chaos. And in the times of chaos, you really have to shine as a leader, but that's not always easy to do. So I thought I'd put something out there on how to lead your small business in the middle of the chaos that's going on. Let's hop into it and start off with, what is chaos? Chaos was something that in the military we dealt with on two levels. First of all was the individual level. We wanted to make sure that every person was comfortable being uncomfortable. The other level that we would think about chaos is how to cause chaos for other people or the opposing force. And so the more you can introduce chaos to the opposing force, the more difficult it is for them to be able to operate, and therefore the easier it is for you to operate. So you're used to it and you're the one who imposed it on them, and so then you can continue on. And so I am familiar with the idea of chaos. And the best working definition for chaos that I have is that chaos is a separation between you and certainty. Now, there's two levels of certainty that we depend on in our present self, and that is certainty of the future and certainty of the past. So right now, as I sit here, even though coronavirus is all around, I am a healthy person. My 401k is going to have time to recover. So I have faith in the future. There's a lot of certainty built in right there. And I have faith that what I've done in the past for my health has led me to a good spot right now with my health. And so I have comfort in the certainty of what I did in the past and comfort in the level of certainty that I have for the future. So right now, things don't feel chaotic to me. But there are a couple ladies I know who, one retired in December and one is retiring this December. So last December and this December. And the 401k that they have, it took a big hit. It took a big hit because it's still in the stock market right now. And they are at an age that is much older than me, twice my age. So the future isn't so certain for them. They don't have as much time as I do for their stocks to recover and to get that money back before they might need it. And then on the flip side, all the things that they thought they did in the past to make themselves secure right now, they're probably questioning that or wondering what's going on about what they could have done better or differently. So it causes chaos in their life. Now, chaos creates a byproduct that everybody knows as an emergency. So the best working definition I've heard of emergency, which I think is pretty accurate, is an emergency is when there are no more options. Now, there could actually be no more options, which creates an emergency, or there could be the perception that there are no more options. Either way, if there is a perceived situation where there are no more options, or there actually are no more options, it creates a feeling of panic. It creates that chaos. And so chaos gives birth to an emergency. What do we as leaders have to do in order to alleviate the chaos and the perception of an emergency that our people are feeling? Well, if you think about the definitions again, if chaos is uncertainty and if an emergency is lack of options, then as a leader, our job is to provide a level of certainty to our folks and to provide options to our folks. So how do we do that? Well, you have to move. We have to move ourselves. We have to move our people. We have to move our company forward. All of them need to move forward. And by moving, what happens is we see more of what is out there, which provides us with more of a sense of what's going on. It provides us with more options. It provides us with more clarity. So you have to move. The worst thing you could do in the battlefield is to sit still. The enemy needs to fix you to your position so that you can't move. When you can't move, you feel like you're running out of options. When you don't have options, emergency and panic and chaos all ensues. The same is true on the battlefield of business in times like this, or in times where your employee walks out that was one of your top employees that you really relied on a lot, or when that big client walks out and you take a 10% hit to your income because this large client walked out. Whatever the reason for the cause of the chaos, in order to defeat that chaos, you have to keep moving. You have to go find that new client. You have to start looking for that new employee. You have to start moving so that you can get away from the stagnation of the situation you're at. The thing that keeps us from moving is that we become comfortable with the devil that we know, rather than going and dealing with the devil that we don't know. And what I mean by that is, right now, as you sit there, you kind of have whatever pains you have. And you know what that pain is, and you've accepted that pain. But you don't know what pains are going to come with moving forward. If you try to move forward, maybe you make things worse. If you try to move forward, maybe it actually causes some issues that you don't have, and now you have new issues. So what you do is you mistakenly oftentimes trade the devil you're comfortable with, the pains that you know right now. You go ahead and you say, I'm okay with that, rather than dealing with the unknown pains that could come with moving. But here's the thing. If you sit still, it does not guarantee you safety. And if you sit still, it certainly does not guarantee you that good things are going to find you. So you have to be willing and know that you have to move away from where you're at right now in order to move forward, in order to move your people forward, in order to move your business forward. And in doing that, you're not just taking on new pains. That's a wrong way of looking at it. You're also opening yourself up to new opportunities. You're opening yourself up to new positives. So the thing that you forget is that when you sit here, yes, you are used to these pains that you're taking on right now, and there's some comfort in that. I get it. But there's also, you're limited to whatever successes and positives you have right now, because the other successes and positives are up in front of you. You got to go get them. So you got to move. You got to keep your people moving. And that is one way that you start to defeat this. But how do you do that? How do you move people forward? And in the military, I brought it over to the civilian side. It helps me. We go with the 3 Ds: distance, direction, description. So let's start with distance. We use distance all the time to help us cope with just the regular stressors of our daily lives. How many times have you looked up and said, oh, thank God it's almost 5 o'clock? Or how many times have you said, this week really sucks. I can't wait to start my vacation next week. Knowing that there's something on the horizon gives us a light at the end of the tunnel that we can continue to push forward. It gives us a positive feeling of hope right now in the moment, and it helps us overcome a lot of the small stressors that we are encountering just in our daily life. So don't retract as a leader during this time. Present them with the plan that you would most like to see happen, and then you go from there. So you've given them a distance, which gives them some type of certainty. The next one is direction. So you've given them a distance. You said, okay, for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, for the next month. So that gives them something to shoot for. That gives them a time frame to keep in mind and work within. And so that shortens everything for them so that it's more palatable. But then you have to give them a direction. So in the next 2 weeks, what are we heading towards? You can't just say, we're going to stay open for the next 2 weeks. You got to let them know that there is a plan and that they're a part of that plan. And by giving them the plan, you also give everybody a common goal, a common aim to shoot for. So then it gives them that camaraderie with one another, and it pulls the business forward as well as everybody along with it. I'll give you an example of a distillery in Ohio that normally would make hard liquor. And during the coronavirus, hand sanitizer has become a bit of a hard thing to get. So the government has called for a lot of places to step up and start manufacturing hand sanitizer. Well, a distillery specializes in alcohol. So this distillery, which normally would have been closed down during this time, they instead converted to doing hand sanitizer. Now there's a direction for you right there, right? So they said, we're going to do hand sanitizer, and we're going to do it for the duration of the emergency that shuts us down normally. Now you have to give them the description. And so you have to describe to them what that looks like. So in the example of the distillery, it's like, hey, we're going to turn this thing into a hand sanitizer plant. So what we're going to need is we're going to need bottles. We need you to go over there and figure out how bottles are manufactured and get us those. We need labels. So we need you to go over here and figure out how labels get put on these bottles and where we can get labels from. We need somebody to figure out how you make hand sanitizer and do it in a good quantity, and logistics and volunteers and all these things, right? You start giving the description. If it is, we're going to start working remotely, then you say, okay, we need to make sure everybody's got laptops. We need to make sure everybody's got wireless access. We need to make sure we have a way of doing video chats. You start giving out all the descriptions of what this direction looks like and the duration of it. And by providing those 3 Ds, what you have done is you've given people options and you have given them some certainty. By giving people options, you've done away with the perception of an emergency by everybody, which makes them calm down just a little bit. And then you said, hey, we're going to bring some order to this chaos, and I'm going to give you a little bit of certainty here. Here's the time frame we're looking at, and here's the direction we're going. We are still moving. Then the next thing to do is reassess where you're at the end of that time frame and re-engage. Come up with another distance direction description. And at the end of all of that, what you should have is people moving forward, people not feeling like they're engulfed in chaos all the time, and you have alleviated the panic that ensues when people perceive there to be an emergency. So if you follow what we talked about here, I think that you will find that any situation is manageable when you distill it down to those simple steps, and you, instead of trying to focus on everything, you say, okay, what's the distance we're talking about, direction, description, and then you start implementing, right? I think these are things that help us to develop a plan when it seems like a plan is not something that is possible in that moment. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully you like this. And if you did, you should go down there right now, hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so you get the notifications. Really appreciate you guys stopping out and listening to all this. Hopefully it helps, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Hodgepodgepreneur. Keep charging hard, hard chargers.